Good evening, Year 11. This is your video for the night before preparation before your first maths paper tomorrow morning. And this video is for hire, so if you want to look up some foundation revision, please make sure you're using the other video available. So we're just going to go over some of the key topics tonight that for your final bits of preparation we think that you should be focusing on. Obviously we know that we don't have advanced information this year, so there's no guarantee as to what's going to be coming up tomorrow morning. But what we can do is think about topics which are purely non-calculator or lend themselves to being on the non-calculator paper, and those what we would call high frequency topics that come up quite regularly on non-calculator papers if we look back at past series of exams. So keeping that in mind, if we consider what we think could possibly be in this exam, so therefore topics that you should definitely consider revising tonight. We're going for extremely likely, so those sort of classic non-calculator topics. So we've got fractions, so any fraction operation, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, those sorts of questions would not appear on a calculator paper because it kind of makes it a bit redundant. It's to test the skill. Do you know how to add fractions, divide fractions, etc.? So that's very likely to be in the exam tomorrow. Estimation, again, a non-calculator only topic. Negative/fractional indices, so evaluating those without a calculator is a skill that you need to make sure you know how to do. Algebra will definitely be on all three of the papers in some form. So tomorrow I'm thinking sort of simplifying, expanding, factorising, so you also consider solving a quadratic, so by factorising, and you've got rearranging, changing the subject. You've got fractions of amounts, percentages and ratios, and we talked a lot when we were doing the PPEs and the exam practice that we've been doing lately. When we sort of get to question 5, 6 in our higher paper, we're tending to see that sort of wordy fractions, percentage, ratio style question. Surds, definitely non-calculator, highly likely to come up tomorrow. So this is one of those topics where you should absolutely be thinking about revising that tonight, making sure you know all of the rules and how to work with surds and simplify them and calculate with them. Also exact trig values. If that's going to be coming up in this exam series, it will definitely be tomorrow morning. So it could just be naming an exact trig value, or it could be applying that to a problem and then solving. And also speed, distance, time is quite a common non-calculator high frequency topic. So when you're trying to decide which topics to prioritise, don't focus on something that you're already fairly sure you know how to do. For example, maybe it was in the PPE or your first mock and you got all the marks on that question. Focus on something where you know that you probably wouldn't get full marks if you were to see that tomorrow, or something you already have seen in your PPEs you lost marks on. Okay, make that your high priority tonight. So that when you're in the exam tomorrow, when you turn the page, if that comes up, you know that you have attempted to fix that and you are going to get marks on that question. And again, sorry, standard form as well. Can be on any of the papers. If it's on your paper tomorrow, you can think about putting numbers into standard form, taking numbers out, calculating. So those non-calculator skills that you would use to calculate standard form calculations. So also likely, we've got things like algebraic fractions, simultaneous equations. I was thinking here specifically just linear ones. Highest common factor and lowest common multiple. I think I've seen that in your first mock, your PPEs, and it's been a lot of the most recent practice sets created by Edexcel. So highly likely, if that's going to come up, it's tomorrow. Any sort of angle fact applying to parallel lines, polygons. Plotting graphs, so that could be plotting a straight line, so a y equals mx plus c linear graph, or a quadratic or a cubic, and possibly then interpreting that as well. Error intervals, so think about truncation and rounding here. Transformations, any sort of transformations, could be transforming a function, so f of x plus 2, or it could be doing a reflection, a rotation, and so on. Circles, sectors, volumes, so anything involving a circle, obviously in a non-calculator paper, would be in terms of pi. But they've also got volume as well. Quite common to see a sphere or cone volume estimation question in which they will embed the formula into the question for you that you would need to use. And don't forget about your formula sheet in just by itself, because if you've got circles on there or volume on that formula sheet, it does remind you how to find the area, the circumference of a circle, but also how to find the volume of a prism and the area of a trapezium. So make sure you're using those. And then possible, we've got probability. Probability, again, like algebra, it's definitely going to be probably across all three of those papers. But I'm thinking, you know, Venn diagrams, tree diagrams, probability tables, Pythagoras. So it might be, this is how they ask you about surds. You could be asked to leave your answer as a simplified surd. Or it would be what we call a Pythagorean triple. So when you work it out, you end up with an integer answer. You don't need a calculator. So again, any sort of area, arcs and polygons, circle theorems, functions. So you can think about composite functions, substituting values into functions, inverse functions, simultaneous equations. I should have put a little note next to this one. I was thinking more about like linear, non-linear ones. Again, that would be something that would need to be able to be factorised. And then obviously loads more, because the scheme of work for maths is very vast. But these are just some of the topics which are either you know, non-calculator only or high frequency for past papers for non-calculator. Okay, so prioritise topics from these lists when you're doing your last bit of revision tonight. So how are you going to revise those things tonight? Well, if you want to look at specific topics, so you've looked at those lists, maybe you've taken a screenshot of those, you've prioritised the ones you're going to do first, here are some websites you can use. I'm not going to talk about Hegarty Maths for very long, because obviously you've been using that for 5 years now. You know how to search topics up on there, you've got the video, and then you can answer the quiz. ExamQ, a lot of you have started using that this year or towards the end of when you're in year 10. So just a few reminders here. When you do go onto ExamQ, I believe the default setting is that it's on Edexcel GCSE Higher, but just check this drop down menu here to make sure you're on the right one. And then we've got to make sure we're looking at paper 1 non-calculator topics, and then we have the search box where you can sort of search for any topics that you have chosen to revise. When you're looking at the questions then, don't forget you have the option to view the mark scheme. So once you have answered the question, have a look at the mark scheme. You can see if you got it correct or how many marks you would have got, and you can kind of see the working out there as well. There's also Maths Genie, so just Google Maths Genie. This will be the home page, and you can either click here at the top tab where it says GCSE Revision, or there is like a specific button for that on that landing page as well. And that will take you to a list of all of the maths topics. And again, you can choose which one you would like to revise. And again, similarly, Corbett Maths is great for topic-based revision, because if you go onto that homepage, click on videos and worksheets, and again, you'll have a list. And this time it will be alphabetised of all of the maths topics. So scroll down, find the one you're after. I've just screenshotted surds here, and I would recommend, out of the 3 options, watch the video if you need to remind yourself how to answer these questions, but then I would choose the practice question options, and that would take you to an exam paper with exam style questions just on that topic. There are answers to these as well. At various points down this topic list you'll see this, so click here for answers, and if you click on that it will take you to a very similar looking page with the same list of topics, except this time the links are to the answers, so please make sure you are checking those. If you want to do full practice papers instead, so a bit more mixed, look on Arbor. We're going to put a bunch of stuff on there for you tonight. It should already be there by the time you're watching this video. You're going to have a Maths Hub, Teacher Hub predicted paper. We're going to put the June 2019 paper on there, because that's obviously the last exam before COVID, so therefore it wasn't advanced information, it was just mixed. Other predicted papers as well. You've got Maths Genie again, as well as doing topic-based revision. They also put on past papers. So here's where you would see that on the website. Click on GCSE papers. Make sure you're selected Edexcel exam papers. Or alternatively, you've got that button down at the bottom there. So tomorrow morning, the hub is going to be open from 7 AM. There will be maths teachers in around that time from then onwards. And obviously tonight, when you're revising, you might come across something that you have struggled to work on independently at home, okay, and you feel like you need a bit of extra support from your maths teacher or any maths teacher to help you understand that. Make sure that you bring in some questions like that for us to help you with. Obviously you're going to have the computers in the hub, there'll be some spare papers and things down there so you can work on those things at that time, but make the most of the fact that all your maths teachers are going to be there. So anything you do tonight that you find that you need a little bit more support on, you were stuck, you didn't understand the way the video was explaining it to you, you looked up the solutions and the mark scheme and that didn't make it any clearer, bring that in and we will help you with that in the morning. Okay, we're going to do line up as usual at 8:25 AM and then back into the conservatory or the canteen, and we will be giving you the final little bit of revision. So we're going to work this the same way we did in the mocks that you've done this year, and you'll get like a grid. One side will be for you guys a sort of grade 5, 6, and the other side it will be 7+. On the screen it's just an example of what you have been given already. You won't be given exactly this one tomorrow because this was made specifically for the advanced information, and as we don't have that this year, we're going to include a few more things that we left off because we knew they weren't going to be in there last year. So it'll just be a little variety of questions for you to get that final bit of extra maths in before your exam starts. Okay, so that's it from me tonight. Please make sure you go back in the video, have a look at those lists of suggested topics, and that you choose some of those to start revising tonight. And we'll see you bright and early in the morning for the hub. Make sure you get a good night's sleep, and good luck.